must a man walk down before you call him a man?
Yes, and how many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand?
Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fire before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry?
Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
It's interesting, I come back, and the theme for this month is freedom from discord. And I'm going to be speaking on that the last 2 Sundays, which is today and next week, on that idea, that theme, freedom from discord. Now, I looked up the definition of freedom, and it is the power to, or the right, the power or the right to act, speak, or think as one wants. When you can act, speak, or think as one wants, you have freedom. Viktor Frankl, when he was in a concentration camp, it wasn't it was one of the concentration camps, discovered that he was still free because he could still think as he chose. Even though he couldn't speak like he wanted to or act like he wanted to, as long as he could think like he wanted to, he was free. He called it the final freedom. So we have freedom as long as we can speak, act, or think the way we choose to. Now, discord, I looked that up. The first definition is disagreement between people. How many of you have noticed that? How many of you have a disagreement with someone? It's just a disagreement. It's discordant, but it's a disagreement. How many of you have noticed that our country is filled full of disagreements? The second definition is that it lacks harmony between it is the lack of harmony between musical notes when they sound together. So when you bring notes together and they're not harmonious, it's called discordant. We want to give you an example of a discordant nature. create in the light and the love and the glory,
in the light,
in the light and the love and the glory,
in the
I am.
That was harmony.
So, discordant doesn't go very far, does it? I mean, you just want, "Meh." How many of you have sometimes opened up your computer and you felt that? That's discordant. Now, I would put those two things together and say that we have the power to act, speak, or think in ways that will create harmony for ourselves and our world. Take that in. We have the power. You have the power. We have the power. We have the power to act, speak, or think in ways that will create harmony for ourselves and our world. And that needs to sink in, because oftentimes what thought can go through our head is, I'm powerless to create harmony in this situation, or this situation. I'm hoping that you will have a deeper realization of your power by being in this service. Also, if you know of anyone that is living with discord, email them and tell them to watch our webcast right now, live streaming. Then go to our website, tell them what the website is, spiritualliving.org, and suggest that they might want to get on it. Because I want to address this. I think all of us would enjoy harmony. Now, the above statement, I'm reading it above. I find the above statement, but you're not reading, so never mind. But the statement, we have power to act, speak, or think in ways that create harmony for ourselves and our world, that particular statement is very empowering to me and very bothersome. It's empowering because it says I can change things. It's bothersome because it says I may have to change things. That's the problem with spiritual maturity, is you get to know how powerful you are, and then you are responsible for using that power wisely. So, back to that statement. It's really big. I think it's huge. We have the power to create harmony in our lives and in the world. That is huge. But it does not mean that we all have to agree. See, a lot of times we want harmony by people agreeing with us, and agreeing with us. If we all agreed, that would be sameness, and sameness is boring. So, what would be a maestro? It would be a mistro. Maestros. Give us an example of what it's like to harmonize.
I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory.
Great. Beautiful, right? Now, give us an illustration of sameness.
I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory.
It's very pretty, but it's boring. And it will not sell a CD. And what would composers do? I mean, so sameness is not the goal. If sameness were the goal, God would have created more sameness. Oh, by the way, is everybody okay with the word God? It's short. I can spell it. Otherwise, I could say the love intelligence that animates the universe and is always expressing itself through this thing that we call creation and sustaining itself through this thing that we call creation. Ugh. So you can insert anything. What's so great is that it's like you just insert what you like. Spirit, Jehovah, Buddha, whatever. But God, I never get tangled up with it. You know, it doesn't make, you know, I don't have to get confused. So I'm going to use the word God. So if God thought that sameness was a good idea, we'd see more of it. Instead, we see diversity everywhere, even things that seem to be the same. So there is a way for us to not be the same and yet find a way to harmonize. And yet, what I've noticed is that sometimes people see difference as suspicious at its best. People can become suspicious of difference instead of saying to themselves, oh, there's something to harmonize with. That's kind of cool. Wonder how we're going to do it. I mean, that's a great question, don't you think? And there is a way that we can start to move this way. And so I'm going to now quote from the New Testament, Jesus. I love this phrase. Jesus said that we must agree with our enemies. And enemy, the word enemy means that which is we're out of sync with. It doesn't mean bad person. It doesn't mean your foe. The word that he used that was translated as enemy just meant someone you're out of sync with. And there's a way to be in agreement with what you're out of sync with, which would cause a syncing, which would cause harmony. There is a way to do that. It wouldn't say to do that if it was impossible. This guy was a really nice guy. He didn't give us impossible stuff to do. He actually gave us stuff that would allow us to have a deeper experience of our own innate, what I'm going to get to in a minute. It's all about timing. So how do we move into sync with that which is different? Well, it's extremely simple and it's really, really hard. Now, to explain simple and hard, simple means simple, just one step, 2 steps. It's not a Martha Stewart recipe. It's the kind of recipes I have cookbooks for. 3 ingredients, a good meal. I mean, somebody gave me that cookbook. You can do this, Kathianne. It only takes 3 ingredients. It's true, I can. So this is simple, but not necessarily easy, because it's hard, because it's going to take us in a new direction. We're going to have to shift. We're going to have to change our habits. We're going to have to change the way we do things, and that's not always easy. If it were easy, then there wouldn't be book after book after book on how to change yourself. There wouldn't be whole rooms filled with personal growth books. And it's not that it's not simple, it's just not easy. So we need to be reminded a lot. But honestly, you can do this. It's simple because we're going to use spiritual principles that have been taught by every major world religion. And every major world religion said 2 things. And when you let go of all the trappings, at the very bottom of it, at the very essence of it, one is that there is a one. The first thing is that there's a one. And that one permeates everything, and everything is an expression of that one. I'm going to use the short name, God. But there is a oneness. And it is that which everything came from, and in its essence and in the beginning, it was all good. First thing. Second thing, that the emanations, the creative process, works through a law that says it's done unto you as you believe. It's done as you do. Buddha said it this way: you are the result of your past thoughts. So these 2 things you can't escape. Unless you join a cult that says that some guy is, or a girl, or whatever is the cause. But when you stay with major world religions and lots of minor ones, they teach two things with different trappings, different headgear, and different robes. So the really hard part is that when we really start understanding that and we really want to move into harmony with everything around us, it becomes hard because everything gets turned upside down. Everything becomes topsy-turvy. It's Alice through the looking glass. It is, I was young, but I have a funny feeling that the summer of love, some people were doing some wild things. Right? I mean, I wasn't. I see some of you hiding your faces. Anyway. So I'm inspired. This talk is inspired, and my whole life has been inspired recently by a verse out of the Old Testament. It's in Isaiah, and it says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways." That's the divine speaking to the prophet Isaiah, and yet it's the divine speaking to each and every one of us, because the reason it was recorded is this is a dialogue from spirit to soul, from that which is greater than ourselves, speaking to that expression of finite reality in this moment. And it says, my thoughts are not your thoughts and my ways are not your ways. So if I want to find harmony and I'm in the midst of discord, maybe my thoughts should be different thoughts. And I have the power to change my thoughts as long as I know that I can change my thoughts. That's called freedom. I'm freedom to choose my thoughts and my actions and my speech. I'm free. But sometimes I just don't know how to, and yet so Spirit says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. And that's sometimes hard. So let's start with that first principle, that first idea, that we are an emanation of God and therefore whole, complete, and perfect. At our essence, we are whole, complete, and perfect. Let that sink in. In your essence, you're whole, complete, and perfect, no matter what you've told yourself, no matter what others told you, no matter what happened when you were a kid, no matter how somebody looked at you on the freeway, no matter what you did to them when they looked at you on the freeway, but no matter what your habit is, no matter what you've done, no matter all the trappings, no matter what you're wearing, what headdress, what kind of sandals, you are whole, complete, and perfect in your very essence. And there's a part of you that knows that. That goes, yay, preach, girl. And there's another part of you that says, Isn't there? Notice inside. Don't you have both things going on? Isn't that discordant? See, we know deep inside ourselves that we're whole, complete, and perfect, but we have proof we're not. This is from Wadsworth. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. And then we're surrounded, he goes on to say, we're surrounded by our innocence. And then we start to be trained. Now, we want to know that we're whole, complete, and perfect. How many of you want to know that you're whole, complete, and perfect? Now, I wouldn't be doing this talk if I hadn't had that experience. And when I'm in that place of knowing I'm whole, complete, and perfect, I can look at even the things that I would judge as not whole, complete, and perfect, but I'm judging that from my training. But when I go into that essence of, oh, this is it, oh, I get it, I will see those things as, wow, that was whole, complete, and perfect. Oh, man, there's something going on here. Wow! And I'm not on drugs. I'm just on God. This is a minister on God. Oh, that was the brain on drugs. Never mind. Too many new people. We can only really know, now here's the topsy-turvy part. We can only really know that we're whole, complete, and perfect to the degree we can see it in others. Topsy-turvy. My thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. And if you want to know how good you are, you better start seeing the good in the others. And that holdout that you have for that person, place, or thing, that's your holdout you have for yourself. Now, we can see our original patterning, which is whole, complete, and perfect. We can see that when we start to see that in others, we will start to see that in ourselves. So we have a song that we sometimes sing, which is, you are the face of God. In your face, it's me I see. Well, that sounds like I only see God in you, but also in your face, it's me I see. In that person's behavior, it's me I see. If it's triggering me, it's in me. So how do we get through this? We get through this by loving our enemies, those people we're out of sync with. Yay, they are our way to liberation. That's topsy-turvy. It's absolutely topsy-turvy. Our way for freedom is to take on those people that we don't like. And it's really easy in an election year. God so loved America that it gave us every 4 years an opportunity to criticize others. And you know what? Next week I'm going to talk about spiritual ninjas as a celebration of our prayer practitioners, but also let's be a ninja. Let's just see ourselves. And here's the way to clean up our consciousness, to remove the training we got. The training, we get rid of it by saying, I will not accuse you, and I don't accuse me. Once those thoughts, I will not accuse. The thought goes off, I will not accuse. The thought goes off, I will not accuse. I will not accuse. Why? Because you have the freedom to choose what you think and what you say to yourself. You do, and if you don't know that, then boy, we've got a class for you. It's called Beyond Limits. And if you've taken it twice and you're still accusing, take it again. You have the freedom to say, I will not accuse, I will not accuse, I will not accuse. And when you stop blaming, you will know your own blamelessness, your original innocence. That's the way you were born. And it's so freeing. That does not mean that we condone behaviors. It means that we continue to still love the actor. Now that's topsy-turvy. We don't love the action, but we can certainly love the actor. Because if we're whole, complete, and perfect, we can truly see that which is whole, complete, and perfect in the other. We see through the actions, through the persona, which means mask, and we see that which is always there, eternally there, because that perhaps is our job. If you're in this room today, that's your job. It's not their job to change. It's your job to see them as they really are. Tag, you're it. It's exciting, right? None of you are very excited. I'd really rather have spirituality with some nice songs and no responsibility. Well, that girl took a vacation. So how is it that we are whole, complete, and perfect, and we have such unskilled behavior? Individually and collectively. Why is that happening? It's happening because we all are being influenced by a collective stinking thinking. Collective stinking thinking. Ernest Holmes would call it race consciousness. For those of you, I could explain race consciousness, but let's just put it this way, the new metaphor. We have all signed up and paid our dues to the cloud. And everything that goes into the cloud stays in the cloud. I lost my phone in Peru. No problemo. It's all in the cloud. What the heck is that? It doesn't matter. I got all my stuff back. So we pay our dues by simply breathing. And we not only store stuff in the cloud, but we have access to the collective consciousness of that cloud. And the collective consciousness of humanity for a very long time has had some pretty stinking thinking. So we're influenced by it. In fact, what I'm going to say is that I think that we have gotten so used to certain ways of thinking that if I was going to use a 12-step metaphor, I would say that many of us are addicted to drama and trauma and upset. Because we're used to it. And if we're addicted to drama, trauma, and upset, then we'll look for it. And if it doesn't happen, we'll want it again. Now, I'm not saying you in this room are, but if it's done unto us as we believe, why do we have so much drama, trauma, and upset? See, I could be at another place and I could say, oh, it's that fault, that thought, that thought. Oh, it's the economy, and then there's the way, the privilege, and then there's this, and this, and this, and this. But I don't believe that. I believe in a spiritual universe where we're whole, complete, and perfect, and there's something within us that keeps recreating something. That song was about the 70s when people were going to a Vietnam War that nobody wanted to go to. And now I'm watching stuff on the TV that I don't want to see. Why is it that this seems to continually recycle? Because we don't know any other way of thinking. Because even if we see something we don't like and we criticize it, in your face sits me, I see. So we actually perpetuate what's been going on even in our criticism. So here's the good news. Let's go past the cloud and go to Netflix. My husband finally signed up for Netflix. I don't want Netflix. I don't watch that much TV, really. But his brother was there, and his brother was, kind of like, what? You don't have Netflix? What? So we signed up for Netflix. And the two of them together watched 2 movies. Some shoot 'em up, bang, bang, get you movies. So when I turned on Netflix, all I could see was shoot 'em up, get you movies in every language imaginable, from every country. And I thought, that's all they have on Netflix? But because he had watched 2 movies there, Netflix thought, that's what you like. That's what I'm going to give you. And since we ran out in English, I'm going to give it to you in Portuguese. I said, I hate Netflix. Tim called up to cancel Netflix, and they said, well, what does she like? He says, oh, PBS. Oh, well, then I will set it up for you. So I get everything PBS-y now. The same with that cloud. If you give your attention to something, the cloud says, that must be what you like. Here's some more. How would you like more? Here you go. Now, individually, how do we shift that? Individually, we have to shift that by deciding we are free to change our speech, our actions, and our thoughts. If you don't know you're free, you don't know you're free. Viktor Frankl said that his final freedom was his thought because he knew he could change his thought. His final freedom. It's our final freedom. The way we start any creative process is the way we think, and we're free to start it any way we want to. Now, this is a little test to see if you might need to change the Netflix of your life. If given the opportunity to gossip, would you? Don't raise your hand. Do you enjoy knowing bad stuff about people you're out of sync with? And have you noticed that if you start to pay attention to that, more shows up? Don't raise your hand. If any one of those things are true, I want to say that you can change your thinking, because as long as you keep them separate, as long as you make them wrong, you perpetuate something's wrong. And who wears wrong? You've just taken the wrong suit out of the closet and put it on. And you think it's them, but no, it's not them. We can't fix things fast enough to change. But I do believe that there is a spiritual antidote and a solution to what we're living in, either personally or as a group of people. And that's to choose God's thoughts and God's ways. How do we do that? How do we do that? First of all, we call on Spirit to give us a new set of options. Just as Tim called up Netflix, and they said, oh, well, I'll give you this. See, sometimes we know we don't want to think those thoughts, but we don't know what other thoughts to think. Been there? So because we don't know any other thoughts to think, we just say, I won't think that, I won't. No, but as long as we're thinking we're not going to think that, guess what we think? We just don't know how to reset things. We have thought that someone is wrong in this country and in the world for so long that it is what everybody dials into. Something happened, who's wrong? Isn't it true? We spend more time finding out why someone was wrong than just getting over it and starting something new. Wrong is an addiction. We are addicted to it. Something happened. I need my wrong. Oh, I feel better. Even if you can't say they're wrong, you know something's wrong. And then who wears wrong? We wear wrong. So we ask, am I willing to have new thoughts and new ways? And if you really want that, they will show up. If you are stuck in drama or trauma, a spiritual practice will help you reset your browser. Now, I could go into what that spiritual practice would be, but many of you have taken Beyond Limits. Many of you know that. It's just do it. The simplest one that I have right now is I just look up and go, my mind is full of stinking thinking, do something. And I have to be willing to be silent until the new thoughts show up. And when the new thoughts show up, I'm amazed. They are not my thoughts. Where did those come from? They were not regurgitated. That was not logical. It was like the Matrix. And I go from weak little victim to, oh, I get it. I get it. And you see everything different. I wasn't going to use this example, but I am because it's a powerful one. Out of my intelligence and knowing how the brain works and knowing how we take on stuff that happens, that we are trained from being this magnificent child of God to being, trained to fit into whatever system we were born into, I got really good at blaming my mother for the stuff that I still deal with. How many of you have a scapegoat? Boy, that is painful. That's a drama and a trauma. If you are uncomfortable, if there's something that winds you up and breaks your heart, guess what? It's time for a new thought. By the way, we're a New Thought Church. So I finally I was being pushed to the edge because my mother now has Alzheimer's, and I was going to go see her, and I was just even hoping that she would recognize me, let alone that I could have a close relationship with her, because I have, in my heart, closed down because she should have been different. She wasn't bad, but she should have been different. So I just let God, it's like, I'm going to go there. You got to talk to me. And it talked. And I saw everything differently. Everything got topsy-turvy. Everything's up, down, upside down. I was not born so my mother could care for me. I decided to incarnate so I could care for my mother. Topsy-turvy. So I can now love her, and I saw her, and her eyes recognized me, but her personality didn't. And we just connected. And then when she would sleep, because she's now in the stage of Alzheimer's where she sleeps a lot, and in her sleep, I would just talk to her and say, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry I blamed you. You were doing the very best you could. The good news is that she may not be in this physical reality very much longer, but we're no longer discordant. And she did not change. Nor did I. Instead, something found the harmony. And its ways are not my ways, and its thoughts are not my thoughts. I had to want to change because I could have argued with Spirit. But the harmony and my meeting with my mother was so blissful, why would I? Beyond peace, beyond joy, beyond love. Bliss. Hanging out with a woman who can't open her eyes was blissful. So the second step after asking Spirit to give you new thoughts and new ways, the second step is to forgive, forgive, forgive. And this mystical definition of forgiveness is to always let God give forth itself through you. And that means that if I go through, a habit, and I move into my addiction of drama and blame and wrong, and then there's my mama, I have to be willing to go back and let God give forth through me again. It may not be one time, although it's been going on for a while. I may have to do this over and over again. But I like it. What's so great is just like when you're addicted, you do something for the high, but then the high goes away, and then there's the That's like when I used to shop a lot. And then the bill. The great news about getting high on God is even when you come down, you're still happy. And there's no regret. So you do it over and over and over again, and then the last step is you become a contributor. You will never know how big you can be until you make a decision to play a bigger game. And we'll always be playing small until we decide that we want to play something bigger. And here's the game that I want to play. The game that I want to play is we make the world a better place. That we make the world a better place. Which leads me to next week's talk, which is about being a spiritual ninja. Ernest Holmes said it this way. He wrote this in 1952 while the Korean War was going on. The whole thought and idea of war would disappear from human consciousness if there were enough people who understood the principle that we're talking about and use it. And use it. The world would solve its problems because enough divine guidance would be coming down into the individual's intellect and emotions. We would be having God thoughts. The solution lies in spiritual awareness. Spiritual awareness to us is the conscious interior awareness that we are one with the divine presence, the source of inspiration, illumination, intelligence, guidance, and solutions. So when we understand that there could be a solution and we're open to it, then we become the channel through which it will flow. I'm going to just briefly use this. This came to me today. And it's a quote from James George, who I didn't know who he was, but it says that he's an international diplomat, author, and visionary environmentalist. And what he was saying when he was being interviewed is, he said, you see consciousness, and he capitalizes C. So I guess I could also say, instead of God, consciousness. Consciousness, 3 syllables. God, 1. Okay, I'll stay with God. You see, consciousness is permeating human beings to the degree that it can, but we're not receptive. We're not allowing that penetration. Our fixed ideas, our cultural conditioning are shedding consciousness like rain is shed from a raincoat. Even in the course of this conversation, there have been a good deal of floundering, but at the times when something came through, when I seemed really intelligent, I know that that was consciousness speaking through me. Are you willing to be open? Are you willing to give up your addiction to wrongness in others or yourself? If you are, boy, it's like the universe has said, are you ready? Oh, I got a big plan for you. That's next week. Let's pray. Take a deep breath. And let yourself be supported by the chair. And let the chair be a representation of the support of the universe. The universe is always here to support us. And now take your most discordant experience and slightly lift your chin. Breathe deeply. Turn your hands up, because this is telling your body you're willing to receive. There's no magic in it. It's just allowing your body to reaffirm that you're open. And say to yourself, and say to the God within yourself, I'm willing to have your thoughts. I'm willing to know your ways. And those ways and those thoughts will be revealed. If not in this moment, in a moment. Stay open. And so it is.